So, you remember that throwaway joke I made in my Young Ones review where I compared it to the Monkees? Well, it turns out that to show that there's a cross between the two exists. Well, a pilot does at least. The band in question are Madness, a British pop ska band who were massive in the 80s and are still going to this day. If you've seen my Young Ones review, you'll also know that they were the only band to appear on the show twice, that they were a perfect fit for the show, and that I absolutely love them. It was written by Richard Curtis, best known for TV shows like Mr. Bean and triggering the slew of British rom-coms in the 90s and early 2000s, and Ben Elton, best known for both the stand-up and writing shows like Yes, The Young Ones. It was directed by Jeff Posner, a comedy director with a long career who at the time was best known for directing some episodes of Not the 9 O'Clock News and 2 episodes of the first series of, yes, you guessed it, The Young Ones. What could possibly go wrong? So, the plot. Madness are now the government and have moved into an old cafe in Camden. An odd move, but at least it's something to differentiate itself from the Monkees. And of course, this was in the UK in the 80s. Politics were on everyone's mind, and they were a very easy target. The episode follows them trying to set up their government whilst the bad guys try to steal their bomb plans to assassinate them and take over Camden. It's a very simple plot, but it's only 12 minutes long, and of course, most of that time has to be taken up with gags. The budget is so close to non-existent that I wouldn't be surprised if they and or their management had funded it themselves. Their music videos look like they had more budget, and that's really not saying much. It does contribute a certain charm to the episode, but I do think that it hampers it overall. So, do they have fun musical sequences in it like the Monkees and the Young Ones? No. This is a considerable disadvantage, and a shame considering their music videos have the perfect tone for something like this. They've always looked like a combination of the Monkees and the Young Ones anyway. They're random, they're fun, and, in contrast to the big productions other artists had, they were always very cheap and charming. All we get is another Madness song playing in the background every 2 minutes or so, but it's not the same as having it front and centre. However, I don't think that this was ever made for broadcast, like a traditional pilot. I think that this was just made as a screen test or proof of concept, to show that a Monkee-style show could work with Madness. And honestly, I think it shows that it couldn't. An important issue is the fact that there aren't 4 members in Madness. At this stage, there were 6. I mean, when you take into account the screen time of the baddies, that's probably around a minute of screen time per member, if that. Therefore, it's not easy to get the sense of who any of them are as characters apart from the fact that Suggs is the leader, which makes sense as he was the lead singer. We at least need to get an idea, even from the most dumbed down archetypal perspective. I don't even know their names. I think that this would have been easier if the episode was 2 or 3 times as long, like a full episode, but it still wouldn't have been easy. Madness are a band that I've been listening to loads recently, but I'm not really in like a Madness phase where I'm like learning stuff about them. I honestly don't know the names of any of the other members of the band. I know one of them is called Chaz, and another is called Woody, I think? And that's about it. However, if you want me to correct this and review the 3-part documentary series Before We Was We, Madness by Madness, then let me know by liking this video. I'll review it if this video gets 30 likes. As for the gags, I actually like them. I think that they're the same quality as the ones in the Monkees and Help. It's not to everyone's taste, as a lot of them are very silly gags like puns, but I certainly wouldn't call them bad. A clear disadvantage is their acting. It's very charming, but they aren't the best, bless them. They're goofy, but there's a certain way of doing it to make it funny rather than feel like a silly little student film. Say what you like about the Monkees, but they could all act. Both Mickey and Davey were accomplished child actors, and Mike gave an audition that was just plain hilarious. The weakest was Peter, but he could still pull off comedy really well. It also doesn't help that they are playing against themselves, as they also play the villains and their mothers at the end. When all of the Beatles apart from Ringo were too stoned to act in Help, they were at least playing against professional character actors chewing the scenery. They certainly do a better job than the Beatles in Help, but it would have been better if they had someone who knew what they were doing to help carry the episode. So, was I impressed by the pilot? No. It's almost certainly the worst work I've seen from those involved. Would I have watched a full series of this? Absolutely. It's a TV show based on one of my favourite shows, set in one of my favourite places in the world, starring one of my favourite bands. I think that the issues could have been ironed out, especially with a decent budget. As I said, I don't think they ever intended a finished, ready-for-broadcast episode to look like this. And besides, the original Monkees pilot was reworked considerably before the network bought it. Then again, the Monkees were lightning in the bottle. It was the right people at the right time, making it any better than it had any right to be. And despite the pilot being all the right people on paper, they just didn't pull it off. As it's mercifully short, I would recommend it to fans of Madness, the Monkees and the young ones as an interesting oddity. But if you decide to skip it, you're really not missing much. A silver lining to all this was that I believe I'm right in thinking that this was the first time Richard Curtis wrote with Ben Elton. Curtis would later bring Elton on to Blackadder when Rowan Atkinson decided he no longer wanted to co-write it after the first series, and it was generally better received after he came on board. If you want to watch my review of another lesser-known TV series by Elton, which was seen as a spiritual sequel to The Young Ones, then you can watch my review of Filthy Rich and Cat Flap, starring Rick Mayall, Nigel Planer and Adrian Edmondson, right here. See you soon!